It should have been a quiet night. A slow shift at a yogurt shop. The kind of job that gives teens their first taste of independence. But just past midnight, firefighters made a discovery so horrific, so unspeakable, it would haunt the city of Austin, Texas for decades. 4 young girls, bound, shot, burned, and a city forever changed. Welcome back to Far From Fiction, the true crime series where the darkest stories still leave behind shadows. I'm Rob, and this is my channel, the Friday Night Campfire Stories. Tonight we have an older case, but one that I think is definitely worth our attention. But before we dive in, I want to share some exciting news. My brand new horror anthology book, The Hollow Season, drops August 1st. It is a twisted collection of 6 original stories, including possession, haunted towns, and gifts from beyond the grave. If you enjoy unsettling tales that make you question what's real, you won't want to miss it. You can pre-order it on Amazon now. The link is in the description. The physical copy will be available on August 1st. Also, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting very close, but I definitely need your help to get there. If you could, just head down below the video and click that subscribe button real quick. It only takes a second of your time and is absolutely free. Now, back to Austin, a case that still burns in the memory of every investigator who walked that ruined shop's floor. A botched investigation, wrongfully convicted teens, and a trail of fire meant to erase every trace of the truth. This is the case of the yogurt shop murders, and over 30 years later, the investigation is still ongoing. It was early December in Austin, Texas, the kind of December that doesn't quite feel like winter. There were Christmas lights hanging from porches, the smell of tacos drifting from food trucks, and teenagers laughing as they walked home in their hoodies instead of coats. The city was alive, but beneath the surface, something unimaginable was about to unfold, and it would begin in one small yogurt shop on West Anderson Lane. Eliza Thomas was 17, smart, kind, and creative, the kind of girl who could sketch a scene or paint a feeling. She worked part-time at the yogurt shop, saving up for college. That night, she clocked in to help close the store. Her co-worker that night was Jennifer Harbison, also 17. Jennifer ran track at Linear High School. She had dreams of becoming a veterinarian. That night, she was working the final shift and had her little sister with her. Sarah Harbison was just 15. She looked up to her older sister Jennifer and was excited to tag along for the night. She and her best friend were planning a sleepover after the shop closed. 13-year-old Amy Ayers was the youngest of the group. Sweet, a little shy, but always smiling. She had a love for animals and had recently joined her school's Future Farmers of America program. That night, she joined Sarah in the shop before heading to their sleepover. 4 girls, one ordinary Friday night, but within just a few hours, their lives and their city would be consumed with a nightmare that nobody saw coming. The evening started like any other Friday. Customers came and went, a few teenagers chatted over frozen yogurt. By 8 p.m., the shop was winding down. It was never a late night spot anyway. Inside, Eliza Thomas and Jennifer Harbison were working behind the counter. Sarah and Amy finished their desserts, lingered behind helping clean up, waiting for the shift to end. At 10:42 p.m., the last official sale was made. A couple of drinks. Witnesses say 2 young men were in the shop around that time. They didn't order much. Just sat in the back, whispering to each other, wearing long coats, even though it wasn't cold. One of them had asked to use the restroom. Some say the back door may have been propped open or jammed. By 11 p.m., the close sign was flipped. Jennifer locked the front door, and the girls began their final cleanup, refilling toppings, wiping tables, and stacking chairs. After that, nobody's really sure what happened until 11:48 p.m. Just before midnight, a police officer was driving nearby, spotted smoke rising from the strip mall. A fire centered at the yogurt shop. It burned fast, too fast. Fueled by accelerants, firefighters forced their way in. What they found inside would scar even the most seasoned responder. 4 young girls, stripped, bound, gagged, shot execution style, and burned almost beyond recognition. Amy, the youngest, was found apart from the others. She had been shot twice in the head, and once in the body. Her body bore the worst of the flames. They believed she was still alive when the fire was lit. A city in shock, a family's worst nightmare, and a crime scene already contaminated by fire, water, and chaos. Whatever clues were once there were now buried beneath the ash. By morning, it was the only story anyone in Austin could talk about. 4 teenagers murdered, burned, in what seemed like a seamless act of violence. The press dubbed it the yogurt shop murders, and police promised swift justice. But the crime scene was a nightmare. The fire had destroyed most of the physical evidence. Water from the hose had washed away blood and DNA, and the heat had warped or melted nearly everything. Witnesses mentioned 2 men who lingered in the shop just before closing. Both were described as young, white males, one with dirty blonde hair, about 5'6", the other taller and broader. They wore bulky coats and left without drawing much attention. Despite multiple tips and even hypnosis sessions with witnesses, those men were never found, and to this day they remain the strongest lead that was never fully followed. Detectives worked around the clock. Over 50 people were questioned, tips flooded in, so did rumors. Some accused cults, others hinted at sexual predators or a robbery gone wrong. The city was grieving and angry. Pressure mounted on law enforcement to catch someone or anyone, but they needed to do it fast. Within days, a teen named Maurice Pierce was pulled over carrying a .22 caliber pistol, the same caliber used in the murders. He claimed it belonged to a friend, but it got detectives looking in a new direction. A direction that would soon derail the investigation completely and lead 4 young men into the crosshairs of a system desperate for answers. 8 years. That's how long the case had remained cold. 8 long years of unanswered questions and growing frustration, until police announced a breakthrough finally in 1999. The suspects, Maurice Pierce, now 24, and his 3 teenage friends from back in 1991, Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen, and Forrest Welborn. None had criminal records. None had previously been tied to the murders, until now. Interrogations began. Hours turned into days. Detectives leaned in hard. They told Michael that they had physical evidence, but they didn't. They said that he had failed a polygraph test, but he hadn't even taken one. They received a confession from Michael. It was a confession, shaky, inconsistent, details changed with every retelling, and he couldn't even identify the girl that he had killed. Robert Springsteen confessed next. He claimed to have raped and murdered one of the girls, but there was one major problem. Both men implicated the other, and neither knew critical crime scene details. There was no DNA evidence tying them to the scene, no fingerprints, no weapon, no eyewitnesses, nothing except the confessions, extracted under hours of covert questioning. Maurice Pierce, whose pistol once sparked the investigation, was later released. No charges stuck. Forrest Welborn, the 4th man, was never indicted. 2 grand juries refused due to insufficient evidence. But Springsteen and Scott weren't so lucky. Despite their confessions contradicting each other, despite no forensic tie to the crime scene, they were charged, convicted, and sentenced to life and death. To the public, it looked like justice had finally been served, but behind the scenes, legal experts and journalists were sounding alarms. Something didn't add up, and the truth was far from over. In the early 2000s, the tide began to turn. Defense attorneys for Robert and Michael launched appeals, claiming their confessions were coerced and their constitutional rights were violated. They weren't wrong. The court had found that the prosecutors had used each man's confession against each other without allowing cross-examination, a violation of the 6th Amendment. Their convictions were overturned, but it wasn't just legal loopholes that unraveled the case. It was science. In 2008, advances in DNA testing brought new clarity to old evidence. Swabs taken from one of the victims revealed the presence of a male DNA. Not from Springsteen, not from Scott, not from any of them that were arrested. The mystery man's DNA had been there all along, and it didn't belong to the so-called confessed killers. Faced with irrefutable evidence, the Travis County District Attorney made a stunning announcement. In June of 2009, all charges against Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen were dropped. After nearly a decade behind bars, the men were free. But freedom didn't come with closure. No new suspects have been arrested, the unknown male DNA profile remains unclaimed, and the families of the 4 girls still have no justice. 4 lives were stolen, 4 families shattered, dozens of leads, thousands of pages of police reports, and yet one thing that matters most remains painfully absent: the truth. More than 30 years later, the fire that claimed the 4 young lives continues to burn, not in the ruins of the yogurt shop, but in the minds of everyone who dares to ask. Who really killed Amy, Eliza, Sarah, and Jennifer? If Robert and Michael didn't do it, then who did? Witnesses on the night of the murder reported seeing 2 suspicious men, one described as having long hair, the other shorter, more clean cut. But police were never able to identify them. Were they customers, or were they always just killers? Some believe that the crime was spontaneous, a robbery gone wrong. Others argue it was premeditated, an act of sadism. The brutality suggests rage, not panic. Roughly $540 was missing from the shop's register, but nothing else was taken. If the robbery was a motive, it was a poor one. Was it just a cover-up for something far darker? Then there's the DNA. The lone male profile found inside one of the victims. It doesn't match any of the 4 original suspects, nor does it match anyone in the National DNA Database. This is the phantom in the case, the silent witness to what happened that night. Could the killers have been transients, drifters passing through Austin? The city's bustling nightlife and open layout made it easy to disappear. Some believe this was the work of a seasoned predator, not local teenagers. Others have wondered if the killer knew the girls. 1 or more. Amy and Jennifer worked closing shift that night, and Sarah and Eliza were there to hang out. Was this an ambush or a betrayal? To this day, the DNA, which is our best piece of evidence, remains unmatched. It means somewhere out there walks a man who was inside the yogurt shop that night, and a man whose identity may never be known. The answers are out there, though, buried in silence, in science, or in someone's memory. But until the right voice speaks up, the yogurt shop murders remains one of the darkest puzzles in Texas history. Eliza Thomas was 17, a bright student known for her kindness and laughter. Sarah Harbison was just 15, and was described as joyful and free-spirited, visiting Austin from El Paso to spend time with her sister. Amy Ayers was the youngest, 13 years old, a horse lover with dreams of becoming a vet, and Jennifer Harbison, 17, was the reliable older sister, hard-working and full of promise. They were daughters, sisters, friends. They had plans for that night, for the weekend, for their futures, but all of that was taken. For over 3 decades, the family of Eliza, Sarah, Amy, and Jennifer have waited. They've endured false confessions, legal twists, dead ends, and broken promises. What they haven't gotten is justice. Someone out there knows what happened that night inside the yogurt shop on December 6, 1991. Someone out there holds the piece that makes this puzzle whole. And after 34 years, it's time to speak up. It's time to come forward. Time to give these families the peace they've been denied for far too long. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Far From Fiction here on the Friday Night Campfire Stories. If this case moved you, if you believe the girls deserve answers, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget my newest book, The Hollow Season, drops August 1st. It's a collection of 6 chilling tales that walk the line between real and the unreal. And if you enjoy horror stories with a twist of darkness, it is a perfect read for you. Like I said, it's available on Amazon on August 1st. But that is going to do it for today. The fire in the yogurt shops were extinguished in minutes, but the shadows that it cast has never faded. As always, thank you for spending a little bit of your evening here with me.